Yes, students, welcome back to Database Management Systems lecture video sessions 3D2. In the previous class, we have discussed about database users and databases. And we have discussed introduction, example, characteristics of database approaches. And today we are going to discuss about the extension of characteristics, actors on the scene, workers behind the scene, and where not to use a DBMS. So upon completion of this lecture video, students can be able to analyze the procedure in organization of data, database, and DBMS. And student can explain various types of users available for supporting databases. Students, continuation to the previous class, we are discussing about terminology. So, reorganizing a database. So, how we can reorganize, change the metadata rather than data. So, what is this metadata? Metadata is all about data about data. Data about a data is called metadata, right? So this is more drastic than data updates and may require massive changes to the data and may require changes to some application program. And it uses data definition language. So example for this renaming of gross to domestic earnings. So instead of domestic earnings, you want to make it as a gross and add a new column. So this is all comes under this reorganizing of database, reorganizing of database. So just like this is an example, foreign earning movie director from film to separate relation director, which we have discussed in the previous video. The example, this is the continuation, right? Pre-DBMS databases. So we use traditional, previously before DBMS, we use traditional file processing system, as we know, which will be having some books and pen we use. So each user defines and implements the files needed for specific software application. As the application base grows, many shared files will increase and a multitude of file structure will you can notice. So a need to exchange data among application is possible by using this one and eventually recognize the data is critical corporate asset. So when you are going with the database approach, so database approach comparing to the traditional file system, database approach is a single repository maintained. You need not to maintain several places, and single repository maintains data that is defined once and then accessed by different users. And this database approach addresses several problems like redundancy. Redundancy means multiple copies, inconsistency, independent updates, inaccuracy, concurrent updates, incompatibility, multiple formats, insecurity, proliferations, inaudibility, poor chain responsibility is called as inaudibility, and inflexibility changes are difficult to apply. So these many different types of problems are answered, are addressed by our database approach, So the next one is characteristics of database approach. So programs are isolated from data through abstraction, and data does not expose details of how or where data is stored and how operations are implemented. This will not be disclosed to the user, who are the end user cannot know where the database actually. So that is called as abstraction. Data sharing through multiple use, different kinds of use you can share the databases. and a multi-user transaction process encapsulates sequence of operations to behave atomically. Data is self-defining. So generally, the database systems contains complete uh, definitions of structures and constraints as metadata. Metadata, as we have discussed, data about data. Database catalogs used by DBMS software and database users who need information about data structures. So these are the examples for the database catalogs. So here you can see relation name student, number of columns 4, course 4 columns, section 4. See, these are the different tables, you can say. These 5 are the different tables. See here columns. So again, column name, student number, class, major, course name, course number, and so on. And these are the different data types. And this belongs to student database. The next one is actors on the scene. So DBA is responsible, DBA, as you know, database administrator, who is going to administrate or taking care of everything of a database. So database administrator is responsible for authorizing access to the database, coordinating and monitoring its uses, acquiring softwares and hardware resources. These are all the responsibilities, and turning the DBMS for best performance. And the database designer, the second one is the second actor is database designer, and he is responsible for identifying the data to be stored, choosing appropriate structure, what kind of structure to represent the store this data. So last one is end users. So there are several types of end users, those whose job requires access to the database. Naive or parametric end users, canned queries, updates, who will pass the queries and updates, then they are called a naive end users. Casual end users, occasional or some special purpose access they use, those are called as casual end users. Sophisticated end users, deep knowledge of database design and DBMS facilities, these are all called sophisticated end users. And the last one is standalone users. So standalone users are personal databases which you are using. They are standalone users. System analyst. So he is another actor, that is a system analyst. He determines the requirements of end users. And last one is application programmers. So implements complex specification business logic as the program. Workers behind the scene. So DBMS designers and implementers are the workers behind the scene, and they design and implement the DBMS modules and interfaces as software package. The other one is tool developers, design and implement tools, and operators and maintain personnel responsible for running and maintenance of hardware and software environment database. So where not to use this DBMS? So where the more desirable use regular files for simple, well-defined application with no expected changes at all, there you can use regular files. And a small variety of data and a small amount of data there, and you need not to use this DBMS. And stringent real-time requirement that cannot afford DBMS overhead. That's also desirable to use regular files. When using only single person access to data, and unlikely that any of these apply to corporate data management. So in fact, corporation often maintains many databases across many database systems. So summary of this lecture is collection of related data, generalized software package for implementing and maintaining a computerized database, and provides many services to manage data sources, several categories of database users we have discussed. So this is the end of chapter 1. Thank you.